Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote. Hello, welcome to Across the Park podcast, and as you can see at the bottom there, very exciting time for the fan advisory board. We're going to get into all of that with two members, Paul Rigby and Julie Clarke, who are from the fan advisory board. First of all, thank you both for joining us. It's a nice sunny Friday, and life feels better, Julie, when Everton are not in relegation fights, and we can enjoy Goodison Park. Am I right?
Just a little bit better, yes. Bright horizons, literally, over the River Mersey. Iconic new stadium, brilliant. Night and day, isn't it, from last year, the year before?
Yeah.
So,
How are you finding the second half of the season? Did you see the job that David Moyes has done being done? Because he's
yeah.
done a phenomenal job, hasn't he?
And I'm embarrassed to say that I was sceptical about having Dave back. Sorry, David, but I was sceptical about having him back, and I had other people in mind that would have done the job. But I'm glad I've been proven wrong.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I was exactly the same, almost thinking that might not be the right man, but I'm very happy to have egg on face. Paul, bringing you into it, how are you finding the second half of the season? It feels good going to Goodison Park, doesn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, it's great, and this makes three of us. I was a little bit skeptical about Moisey, but you know what? I'm always happy to be proved wrong. And you know, I mean, this is it's the time now when it really starts to sink home, doesn't it? About where we're at as as Evertonians, and as we say farewell to Goodison. And we've had some memorable nights, but this season brought one home in particular. Tarkowski's. Late night goal against them, and then this week was also anniversary of the Bayern game. And for people like myself of a certain vintage who were there that night, I tell you, there's a lot been written about it, but that was a celestial out of body experience when Trevor slotted home at that moment, and all those memories start flooding back, and I guess I'm just concentrating now on looking forward to a new chapter, new winning ways, and creating new memories.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good way of putting it. We're looking forward to the next chapter of things. But just before we move on, Paul, as it hit you now that the old lady, there's only 3 left. You're starting to maybe go the game a little bit earlier and take it in as a hitting home.
It has, Ian, yeah. I mean, we got there early anyway because Julie and I and a couple of others. We set up a drop-in desk at St. Luke's for the FAB, and a lot of the conversation now is we're providing therapy for people coming in. Like, I don't know how to cope with it. And outside of a lot of the normal issues that fans want to raise with us, there is a strong sentiment about how much the old girl's going to be missed.
Julie, got to ask you as well. I always see you before the game, so I know you're an early bird at Goodison, but is it hitting home now that Everton's men's team won't be playing there any longer after these 3 games?
Yeah, it is. It's a bit. I was speaking to some of the people, and I've seen you as well. I go to the Blue Base before, and even speaking to them, to the staff there and everything. We're all just saying, we can't believe it. We can't believe it. You're only going to come here another 2 times or 3 times and 4 times. And it's unbelievable that it is finally sinking in. It's kind of like making a huge, big life change, like getting married or moving home or anything like that. It's one of those moments, really.
Yeah, even my little boy, my little boy now, he's only 7, and we were fortunate enough to go to the test events, so he's been to both grounds, and he even said to me, "But how many more was really nice, but I'm going to miss Goodison.
Oh,
I've got it at 7. But look, we're here to talk about the fan advisory board and a chance for fresh voices, fresh ideas, fresh faces to join the fan advisory board. Julie, do you first want to talk to us about the fan advisory board? There's some Evertonians who are probably watching and listening to this who don't know what you
yeah.
guys do and who you guys are. Do you want to just talk to us about the fan advisory
Okay.
board?
It's a good question because we do get asked a lot. People don't necessarily know the difference between the fan advisory board and the other reserve groups, particularly the fans forum. There's also the Disabled Supporters Club, the Heritage Society, etc. There's 6 reserve groups within the fan advisory board. So it's not an either or. All of the reserve groups, so there's Everton Disabled Supporters Association, EDSA, there's the International Supporters Network, Supporters Club Committee, Fans Forum, the Heritage Society, and the Women's Group, and the Women's Supporters Club. So there's 6 groups, and they all feed into the FAB. So the FAB consists of a representative from those 6 groups plus 11 directly elected fan elected representatives. Paul and I are 2 of those. Of the other 6 groups, they all elect a representative every year. They elect or re-elect a representative to sit on the FAB on their behalf. So when we have meetings, we get a perspective from almost every angle you can imagine of fandom.
Yeah, and I think a follow-up question to that would be your communication with the club. I think that's always been a big topic, communication from the club. Some people over the years have thought it could have been more, and I think you guys, from my opinion, you've got a big presence in how you communicate, especially on social media. How often do you talk to the club about issues? Is there a sort of every 3 months, every year? How often do you engage with the club itself?
Okay, so for me,
Yeah.
Okay, well, we meet as a FAB once a month,
Yeah.
and we meet with the club quarterly. We can have and have had ad hoc meetings in between those quarterly meetings if there are big things to discuss, like this the transition to Bramley Moor, that kind of thing. If there's something that's big on the agenda that's coming over the horizon, then we will ask the club for a meeting, or they will invite us along for a meeting. But structurally, there are 4 quarterly meetings with the club. So when the FAB meets every month, that is currently the only time that all of the 6, also the 6 reserve groups, are all in the same room together. So when I say the same room, they tend to be online, the FAB meetings, but all of those reserve groups get to meet, reps get to meet each other as well. And we all feed up to the FAB, and we feed back to the reserve groups. And then, as a collective, we feed to the club.
Okay, so I hope everyone listening and watching is a bit more clear, if they were, on what the fan advisory boards do when you meet, what your sort of topics are with the club. But Paul, you're on the show to ask, well, not ask, but encourage applications. What's the application process look like? Have I got to be a season ticket holder? Do I have to be a member? Do I have to be of a certain age? What's the process like?
Process is very straightforward, Ian. And just this, let's just get some of the myth and mystique out. You know, you don't have to be a Super Blue. You don't have to be a celebrity. You don't have to be a season ticket holder, a shareholder. You don't have to go home and away. You know, it's, you know, the only criteria that we do have is to be an official member of the club scheme. And as of the 1st of May. So if you're interested, folks, get your applications in soon, right? But you know, from there on in, the application process itself ends in May. Sorry, it opens in May. It doesn't end in May. It ends in July. And what we're looking for is a 300-word bio, you know, 1-pager, and a 1-minute video, which is fairly straightforward process. Then we go through a shortlisting process with members of the FAB and some independent assessors. The window after the shortlisting window for voting closes the end of May, and we will be looking to complete the whole process by the first week of July. So fairly straightforward. In terms of what I'm seeing, what I'm looking for though is obviously a passion for Everton, first and foremost, but also behavioural over technical skills in terms of what people can bring. Good team builders, good communicators, active participants, not passive, and strong collaborators. So they're the things that we've found are the essence of what's built the FAB into a good body to represent fans' views.
Yeah, I think it is. I've not been shy of my encouragement and support of you guys. I do think it's important that we as a supporter have an advisory board, a fan advisory board. Julie, is this an annual thing? If someone applies and they're successful, do they have to reapply again next year? Or are there set positions for length of time? Because you mentioned there you've got the Disabled Supporters Club for the men and women on there, and the Heritage Society, and good groups like that. Is there always a reapplication process?
Yeah, they have they have an election every year themselves to vote somebody on, but they can ask or be nominated to be re-voted. So you might have seen, say, for instance, Richie Gillam from the Heritage Society has been on for 2 seasons. They may have somebody else representing them on the FAB next year, but there will have been a vote every year. Of the 5 people who are directly fan elected, we've got 4 of those spaces are 3-year terms, and 1 of them is a 1-year term. So the 1-year term obviously is voted on every year, but somebody who's already done it for 1 year can vote to come on for a 2nd year. Of the 3-year tenures, we deliberately staggered those because we need to have consistency. So when we're going to hand over to new FAB members, each season, I've got 1 year left on the FAB. I was voted on last time for 3 years. Next year, the first year at Bramley-Moore is my last year, and it definitely is. I will not be standing to be re-elected, and not because I'm not enjoying being on the FAB. It's just that I believe really strongly that we've got to move aside and make way for other people. Anybody wanting to apply to be on the FAB, I believe, needs to believe that they have just as much of an opportunity as the rest of us, as anybody else, of getting on the FAB. And I do believe, the people who've been on it for some years need to move that, from my personal view, move aside and let new people come on. So you can apply for the 3-year role. You can say, if you don't get the 3-year role, whether you want to be considered for the 1-year role. There may be some people who've got limited time and availability and only want to try it for 1 year, and that's fine as well. You can just apply for a 1-year role.
Okay. So next year is your last year. I think Richard Masters will be happy with that. Happy to hear that after your little... I couldn't resist. Sorry, couldn't resist.
Doesn't mean to say I stop campaigning for the fans, though. I might not be on the FAB, but I'll still be looking after the fans. $1,000.
Paul, you were mentioning there it's a chance for new faces coming in, and I'm looking at it as maybe new ideas, new voices, a new way of looking at things. Is that something that you're looking for? People who can bring something that's maybe new and fresh?
Yeah, definitely, Ian. New faces, fresh perspectives, new insights, skills are extremely important. Just a little anecdote. I was down at Premier League headquarters just around Christmas time, and Richard Masters came towards me, and he looked over my shoulder and I said, "Julie's not here, don't worry." And true story. But yeah, what we had to do is take a look at what the impact of the challenges and opportunities that are happening in football and the club. There's we've got the independent football regulator on the horizon. There's the growth of and consolidation of club ownership. Around, you could call it Wall Street and other states. So the old notion of the big six seems to be disintegrating before our eyes. The consolidation seems to be happening elsewhere. So insights around that are going to be extremely important as we represent a lot of the questions that fans ask us about. Things like the European Super League. The spectre of that hasn't gone away. We have got an appreciation of particularly with American ownership, they want to protect their investments. So does that jeopardy of promotion and relegation, is that something that's going to impact us? And we just need to understand fans' perspective on that and represent it to our club, and also with other bodies that we're engaged with and where we represent Everton, at the FSA, for example. And at the club, it's a whole new dawn. We've got to understand what their overarching strategy is for a host of things. We're all pushing for a successful, attractive football team playing, winning, trophy hunting, style of football that can bring back, the glory days, and start creating new memories. But at the same time, again, just ensuring that there's a fan-centric view about things such as commercial opportunities or season tickets, match day pricing, and so on and so forth. So it's exciting times ahead. This is a great opportunity for fans who are passionate about not just Everton but football in general. To actually get on board with a group of very passionate and energetic members of the current fab and let the voice be heard.
No, it's great to hear that. I mean, I'd encourage anyone who's even thinking about it to maybe contact either of you on the social media and have an off the record chat. I know the fab is on Twitter and X, and you quite engaged on there. So I'd encourage anyone who's even just thinking about it to look into it. It's such an important role, I think, as a supporter, to have your voice heard and be able to go and have conversations and little things over ticketing prices and access to in and around the stadium. They're all important issues, and without the fan advisory board, sometimes we can't get the answers and get our voice across. Paul, when I looked at your bio, you're the sub lead on a biz tech side. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have a number of subcommittees. And when I came on board, what I saw was that we had a lot of expertise. A lot of people with I think there's was over a couple of 100 years collectively, of experience in business, not just mine. And and I think given our remit, it was clear that we had to engage the club in a respectful but also professional and strategic manner. And it was felt that the way to do that was to corral that group of people, so that we could represent our point of view in a way which was data driven. It was professional. We maybe go and research what was happening at other clubs. Obviously, in my first year and Julie's as well last season, we had quite a lot going on with PSR, with 777. Remember them?
Oh God, shivers.
And we were quite strong in making our feelings known as reflected in the fan base to the Premier League, what we felt of some of the ownership matters that were going on, and we're not afraid to leverage our contacts, be they political, be they journalists, other external groups like the FSA. Now, we haven't always seen eye to eye with the FSA, but to be fair, they were they've been very supportive of a number of things, not least of which was the final game, making sure that was at a moment in time which gave us the ability to celebrate Goodison the way it should be, and not deep in the bowels of a Monday night game or something of that nature. So,
yeah,
all those are important factors, and the business group, along with the comms group, along with other subcommittees, the football regulation group, work very effectively, and we overlap really well. So the communication between them all is solid, and I think we're again looking at this process, looking to enhance all the time and improve all the time. I know it's a hackneyed expression, but we do believe in continuous improvement. And that comes through new ideas and new perspectives joining the board.
Yeah, and Julie, you didn't escape my research yesterday. I had a little bit of a Google and sub-lead yourself. I think you're more on the women's side. Your subs. The women's game is getting so big, so popular. Again, my little girl, she's only 3. She's not really old enough to go to the men's games, but we certainly go to Walton Hall Park and she gets her face painted. And my little boy then he wants to come because you can't have a show without punch. And I see lots of families all of a sudden becoming really engaged with the women's game. And I think Everton women's supporters are a passionate bunch of supporters. They go up and down the country following the ladies, and the manager's just got an extension to his contract, hopefully some investment. Does it not surprise you, but maybe are you quite proud of how big the women's side of football is getting now?
Yeah, it's really encouraging. It's phenomenal, actually. And we've got a really, really good side. And it's fair to say we were almost decimated in the very lean years after PSR, under the Mashiri ownership, etc. But the women's team was drained of the resources and really the talents that it needed. We got to a stage where when we had a few of the women injured, the squad was so small for Brian Sorensen to choose from, and then in like a night on a charger comes the TFG group, who've got a really, really good model over at AS Roma. And we've made representation as a FAB in saying, we would love for you to try to replicate some of what you're doing. AS Roma women are now the league champions in Italy, and whatever they're doing right over there, we'd like that to be replicated over here with the women's team. We've got playing at Walton Hall Park at the moment, which we're outgrowing, obviously. So there's talks around what's going to happen moving forward, and the FAB are very much involved in that, and particularly. So I am the group lead on the women's game subcommittee. Paul's actually also on that committee because Paul lived in America for a long time, and he recognises the difference over there in the women's game as opposed to what it's been in Europe in the last 20 years. It's phenomenal over. I mean, at one stage it was bigger than the men's game. Don't know whether it still is over there. But so there's a lot to be done and a lot of advocacy on behalf of the women's team to be had by the FAB and fans in general of the women's game. And it's really good to see there's a significant number of season ticket holders now for the women's game, and a lot of the guys who are going to the men's game who'd never been to a women's game are coming along now, such as yourself, Ian.
Absolutely, I was the target market with 2 young Evertonians who were locked out to Goodison Park most games, and all of a sudden, I think the most pleasing thing for me is my little boy supports Everton women as much as he supports Everton men, and he knows the names. And there's a women's Super League sticker book, and he collects the stickers of Megan and all and Courtney, and they're always really nice as well. The girls, they're always really great with the supporters. And it opens up a new world. But I think you're really right. I'm starting to see people.
Let me interrupt you there. Sorry, just to say the women's group, the Women's Supporters Club, they are at the moment. They're out on the social media. They're asking for people to nominate the Women's Player of the Year. So get onto the Everton Women's Supporters Club Twitter or Blue Sky, wherever else they're on, and get you voting for the Women's Player of the Year as well.
Absolutely. I think that'll be a tough vote. I have 3 or 4 names spring to mind straight away because the 3 or 4 of the women have done really well this season. So yeah, look, you've been on other podcasts. We're banging the drum. We're trying to help with the message of the application process is opening at the start of May. One thing you said to me before a game, and I don't know whether you meant to say it, is you were talking about maybe can we guess the young ideas and can some of the younger generation become part of the voice? Is that important to you to maybe have someone who maybe looks at life a little bit different and what they want the club to look like for them in the next 25 years?
Yeah, very definitely. And I know Paul might have something to say on this as well, but we do particularly want younger people to apply this year. Anyone over 18 can apply to be on the FAB. We particularly do want and need younger supporters on the FAB. We need to be representing all Everton fans, and a significant proportion of them are under 30, under 20 even. And we need those people. We need those fans to be represented by their peers, really. So we would love more younger people to make an application this year. There's never been a better time, actually, because there's no criteria this year. For the first time ever since the FAB was formed, we've got 2 vacancies there for direct fan election that have no criteria. You don't need to be a shareholder. You don't need to have a protected characteristic. There's no criteria. They are just wide open for anybody who has a membership. Sorry, Paul. Did you want? I don't know if you wanted to say.
I was going to say, yep. Paul, is that similar? Is it a similar answer to what you would have give? That I think sometimes the younger voices are maybe not heard. Sometimes because they go within themselves when they're in an environment where someone maybe of age is speaking. But is it important to you that the younger generation tell you what they want the club to look like over the next 30, 40 years for them and their family?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm the proud owner of a couple of millennials. And they're not shy about telling me what they think about what should be happening, and and in their circle as well. I mean, I chair the Everton Delaware in the USA group. Very strong and very active group. And a real diagonal slice of society in the States, and a lot of young membership there, and also from my perspective, for my sins, I'm on the National Council of the FSA, also the Premier League Network, and I see a lot of clubs making great efforts and great strides to engage a more diverse fan grouping within their fan representative bodies. And I know, for example, Manchester City have got some great young activists involved in many of their matters with the club. And I think it's just like a really healthy thing, that we have those, that continuous stream of new thinking, new ideas, and and people who can teach us old folks how to use a Zoom. So.
Yes, my little boy teaches me how to do things on the PlayStation. We've got a PlayStation, and I'm like, how does this 7-year-old know how to navigate around like a Play Store and things? So yeah, look, Paul, I wanted to ask you before we let you both go. We've spoke about May and June as the application process. We spoke about July. The applicants will be informed that they've been successful. Is this a bit of an exciting time for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just as a member of the FAB, as an Evertonian, it's just really something special right now. We talked about Goodison Park, and saying our goodbyes there. Mm-hmm. I'm just really keen to see how Evertonia will look in a year's time, 2 years' time, because I strongly believe that the new ownership, the move to the new stadium, is going to create almost like a new identity for us, a more vibrant one. And because cultural change is quite dynamic, and we are going to have to accept that things are going to be different, and it's such a positive way forward that is being mapped out for us now. All the things that are happening at a board level at the club, they're making strong investments with solid professionals, People that are grown-ups in the world of business and in sport. And so I'm looking just really with great excitement to see how all that evolves.
And I'm going to be watching with excitement as well. It's exciting for me as a supporter to find out who's going to join the fan advisory board. I'll be watching, and I'll always help out on socials if you need anything. But Julie, I want you to have the last word and close us out if you don't mind. How do people apply? We've mentioned at the start, but let's close it out. How do I apply to join the fan advisory board?
Well, watch out on the Everton club website, and also watch out on Fab social media. We're on X, we're on Blue Sky, we're on Instagram. I don't know if we're on anything else. I don't do social media, but I know that we're on that. And also we've got the website. So just have a look out for the notices. The notices will come out soon with the time frame. The applications will start in May, and they'll go through to the end of May, beginning of June. Then there'll be a shortlisting process, and then there will be a selection of fans on the website when the fan vote opens in June. For fans to directly elect, they'll have two choices. They'll have a group of people available to be elected for 3 years, and a group of people to be elected for 1 year, and they'll be able to choose one from each group. And so we will have 2 new directly elected FAB members in our first meeting will be in early July. The successful applicants will know the first week in July. We'll have our first meeting in July, and everybody will be aware. The reserve groups will have elected or re-elected their representative as well. So the whole new iteration of the FAB will be online on the first week of July.
Exciting times. Anyone who's watching on the YouTube, the link the description below will have all of the fan advisory board's websites and social media details on as well. I encourage you to check them out. But we've come to a natural end of the show. It's exciting time to be an Evertonian for a number of reasons. I'm excited to see how you guys get on with the application process. Good luck. Paul, thanks for joining us for the first time. Julie, it's your 4th time. I'm going to have to start paying you.
Wow, I'm stalking you.
Well, the only person who is, trust me, there's not a long queue at that. It's great to have you both on. Thank you so much for joining Across the Park podcast. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. Everyone else, guys, thanks for watching and listening. Up the toffees.
Thanks.